Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Animefied. Today, let's look at anime called Shinka no Mi. If you are new here, please consider subscribing this channel as we bring hidden gems to you. Anyways, let's get started. This story follows the life of a chubby and smelly student who is bullied at school. His name is Seiichi, and his life changes when a god announces on the classroom loudspeaker that all the students will be transported to a new world, where they will be heroes. The god tells everyone to gather into groups and gives everyone the power to see their own statuses, the ability to evaluate other people in a transport box. After seeing his own status, Seiichi is ashamed, for all his attributes are at level 1. Because he is weak, he has no friends. He's abandoned by all the groups. God, seeing Seiichi alone, goes there and gives him a surprising ability and sends him alone to another world. After being run over by a group of monkeys while hunting for a worm to eat, he finds a fruit from evolution and eats it. Even though the fruit is from evolution, nothing happens to him. Hiding in the bushes, the protagonist watches the monkeys that ran him over. Analyzing them, the boy sees that the monkeys are level 120. When the animals leave their place, Seiichi goes there and steals some fruit and starts to eat. Out of nowhere, a monkey attacks him by surprise and he can barely defend himself. Seiichi is lucky that the monkey died just by smelling his stench. After killing his first enemy, the protagonist receives some rewards, such as food, the monkey's abilities, and even a guidebook that he can only read because of the extra ability that God gave him. So the protagonist realizes that he's ready to evolve. He goes through the evolution, feeling enormous pain. But in the end, at least he is skinny, but still smelly. To evolve again, he just has to keep feeding himself with these fruits. The same way monkeys have a very high level, he can also level up past this way. Well, a few months go by, and Seiichi continues to survive with the skills he gained by killing a monkey. His new enemy is a wolf of level 311 that he ends up killing with a kick, and gets rewarded for killing the wolf. He gains the ability to use water magic, a dagger, and a map. Sushi's status goes up, and before you know it, he can go through a new evolution. Seiichi tries everything to defeat the enemy, but nothing works, so he tries to feed her using his stench. The gorilla falls in love with him and takes him to her cave. Inside the cave, the gorilla named Seiichi spoils Seiichi in different ways, always saying she's his wife and always being repelled by the protagonist, who obviously doesn't want to have a relationship with an ape. Meanwhile, somewhere, all the other students are in a kind of castle training to face the demon lord. In the cave, Seiichi proves to be a very feminine gorilla for an animal, while Seiichi is acquiring new skills daily to try to escape the trouble he has gotten himself into. When Seiichi goes out to look for fruits of evolution with the monkeys, the protagonist runs as fast as he can. Somehow, the gorilla had noticed his movement and began to chase him. Seiichi ends up using his instant movement skill to escape, so he ends up entering an unexplored cave. Inside the cave, he comes across a level 1500 Dark Lord. The ape-like monster calls Seiichi an insect and strikes him with a sword, but Seiichi appears and receives this blow instead of her beloved. Seeing this, Seiichi is furious, so he attacks his enemy with his magic, but the monster manages to dodge it. Then Seiichi decides to mix his instantaneous movements with a sword strike, and he manages to kill the Dark Lord. In the end, the monster thanks him for being freed from this world. After defeating the demon lord, Seiichi remembers the dying monkey, and then in a very romantic scene, Seiichi kisses Seiichi. Out of nowhere, the monkey went through an evolution and turned into a beautiful girl. In the end, Seiichi went to claim the famous post-fight rewards, so he received more skills, went through a final evolution, and not only that, but he still received some rewards from the dungeon administrator, which were basically a dress for Seiichi, a helmet for Seiichi, a fruit crop from the evolution, and the most important, a trip out of the forest. After these events, Seiichi and Seiichi head towards a town. Arriving in town without any identification, they're required to take a test and prove that they are not thieves. The town guard recommends that they both not visit the adventurous guild, but Seiichi doesn't follow the advice and goes to the door of the guilty spy. At that very moment, he sees a blonde girl in a costume whipping a fat man. Seeing that unbelievable scene, Seiichi tries to mess with Seiichi, but the guild master appears and pushes them both inside. There, Seiichi and Seiichi are convinced to join the adventurous guild. While signing up for the guild, a group of men with mohawks arrive and call out Seiichi outside. The protagonists believe that they want to fight, but the truth is, they wanted something else and Seiichi was forced to flee. After many events, the two finally became official members of the guild. Now the only thing they need to do is perform a ranking test. They perform their test as a very beautiful girl named Altria. Believing that the main characters are weak, she takes them to perform simpler services. Seiichi was sent to help in an orphanage, and Seiichi receives the mission to demolish a construction site and take a dog for a walk. Altria feels guilty since she's known to attract calamity. Whenever she gets close to someone, that person suffers or dies. While Altria is crying, Seiichi came out of the rubble alive. Seeing the guy alive, she tells him to be careful. After that, they go for a walk with a dog. which is actually a giant wolf. At the end of the day, they receive their payment and are invited by Altria to stay at the same lodging as hers. The next day, Altria asks Seiichi and Seiya to collect common medicinal herbs. Seiya is able to collect them easily, but Seiichi can only collect rare plants. Looking for the normal plants, Seiichi decides to ask for help from a group of demons who are planning to capture humans. Thinking Seiichi would be an easy prey, the demons try to capture him by calling an ogre to attack him. Unfortunately for the demons, Seiichi is already so powerful that not even a demon lord could defeat him. The second test of the day would be to hunt slimes. However, the terrain is full of teleport traps that demons have scattered. Altria ends up stepping on one, so she teleports with Seiichi and Seiya to the Dragon God's castle. Not knowing where they are, Altria gives them a guide stone, in case they get separated. The stone helps them find their way to her. The stone turns red if the bearer of it is in danger. Everyone pledges not to get separated. But just at this moment, Altria steps into a trap, and the group is separated. On one side, Altria faces a mummy with all of its power. On the other side, Seiichi and Seiya are lost for the stone only points to Wallace. While they're trying to regroup, Seiichi finds a treasure chest with arms and legs. For some reason, the chest tries to attack them, but it's too weak. By defeating the chest, Seiichi gets some cards, a ring, and a buck. Out of nowhere, the stone that Seiya is guarding turns red. This means that somewhere in this castle, she's in danger, and the danger she was facing was only the Dragon God, a being so strong that even Altria's best blows don't seem to even bother him. Just as the girl was about to be incinerated by the dragon, Seiichi and Seiya arrive in time to save her. When Seiichi saw the stone turning red, he managed to get out of the labyrinth by breaking the walls, so he and Seiya arrived in time to save Altria from incineration. Seiya healed Altria with some potions and Seiichi began to face the Dragon God. First, the protagonist tried to use magic he already had against the Dragon God, but it doesn't have much effect. Seiichi doesn't give up the fight, and again he acquires new techniques and defeats the very powerful enemy. The rewards for winning the fight this time were various magical and physical powers, even the dragon gem he received. And by eating it, Seiichi had all his stats increased and also managed to increase his level beyond the limit. Everyone manages to get back to Altria's city, using Seiichi's power, back to the well-being. Altria apologizes and shows that her luck stats were minus 20,000 because of this. Several bad things happened to her and the people around her. In the Adventurers Guild, the most bizarre members were already preparing to go after their friends, seeing them safe and sound. They are all relieved. Altria, sad for all she believes she has caused, runs to the rubble and begins to cry. Seiichi looks for her, and when he finds her, he hugs her, after which she gives her a ring of misfortune. Seiichi explains to Altria that with this ring, her bad luck will go from minus 20,000 to 40,000, and Seiichi promises to always protect her and stay with her. To Altria, this seemed like a direct request for commandment. But Seiichi was just being nice in an exaggerated way. At the end of the day, Seiichi had to break his own promise. At breakfast, Seiichi talks with Seiya about Alteria's strange behavior, and then they decide what they will do for the day. Seiya will stay with the children at the orphanage, and he will go in search of information. Meanwhile, in another country, the supreme authorities are thinking about using slave bracelets on those students and forcing them to train more. Back in the city of Altria, Seiichi was in a library searching about the Dark Lord. As no information seems reliable, Seiichi started to study magic. On the other side of town, Altria was talking to her friend, Adriana, about Seiichi. In this conversation, Altria discovers that she's in love and decides to propose to him. Meanwhile, Seiichi had taken a break from his students and had found a good restaurant to eat at. There he makes a new friend named Ranzi. This friend informs Seiichi that giving a ring to a woman the way he did is basically a marriage proposal. Ranzi advises Seiichi to stay with Seiya and Altria. Seiichi's decision was to undo this misunderstanding. Seiichi then goes to the orphanage to tell this to Seiya, but on the way, Altria finds him and kisses him, after which, the girl declares herself to him. Seiya arrives at this point and asks Seiichi to accept Altria's request, so they form a trinity. The next day, at the guild leader's suggestion, Seiichi goes in search of a horse, using a map that his master has taken from his underwear. When he arrives at the indicated place, an all-out horse race is about to begin, and the champion of this race will win great prizes. As he searches for the ideal horse, Seiichi chooses a mule. Somehow he has acquired the ability to understand what the animal speaks, so he can tame it. The mule's name is Lulu. With his new mount, Seiichi goes to participate in the Royal Cup. On the day of the competition, all his wives are there to cheer him on. The race begins, and for some reason Lulu is left behind. Seiichi tries to find out why Lulu says she dreams so much about the 5th prize fish. She didn't eat any of it. Seiichi then gives Lulu one of his evolution fruits to motivate her, so the mule runs as fast as she can. In the race, one of the participants tries to use a ranked wolves to take down their enemies, but Lulu runs over the weak ones and stomps on the strongest wolf. Seiichi and Lulu win the Royal Cup. and even though Lulu wins, she's sad that she didn't get the 5th prize fish. Seiichi tries to comfort his mule, and out of nowhere, the animal turns into a beautiful girl. Seeing a naked girl on top of Seiichi, Altria, who's not as understanding as Saria, she starts to get aggressive. Seiichi tries to explain, but Altria only believes him when Saria explains that she has evolved from a monster into a beautiful human woman. After all this, Lulu is dragged off to put on clothes. At the same time, in another place, the daughter of the demon lord gathers all the commanders of the demon army and informs them about her decision to propose a truce with a human kingdom. They all agree, except for this demon pig. Back to the humans. After winning the royal cup, some Valkyries called Seiichi went to retrieve the 1st place prize. The prize was to spend a day with the Valkyries. There, he sees the Valkyries training and then is called to participate in a mock fight with a captain of the Valkyries. Meanwhile, all of Seiichi's old schoolmates have been sent to a special school to train hard. Back at the Valkyries, during the training, Seiichi manages to easily dodge all of the perfect Valkyrie blows. This shocks everyone, including himself. During the training, Seiichi gains special abilities and defeats the perfect swordsman. After losing, Valkyrie asks Seiichi to be her master. Out of nowhere, everyone is warned that someone has invaded the castle and attacked the king. All the Valkyries run to see what has happened. Seiichi is attacked by a little girl, and he automatically defends himself by putting the girl to sleep. When the Valkyries return, Seiichi tells them that the little girl had tried to assassinate the king. A Valkyrie named Lorna is assigned the mission of interrogating the little girl, and the rest of the group goes to the king. Everyone is worried because the little girl named Origa has hit the king with a cursed sword, which has the power to make the person hit sleep eternally. The brother of the Valkyrie Supreme has tried everything, but nothing works. Seeing the king's situation, Seiichi tries to help him, only with a strong will. Again, he manages to create a broken ability. This time, it reversed the effect from eternal sleep to eternal health. The king was Ranzi, that friend Seiichi made in the restaurant. After being saved, he offered a reward, and Seiichi asked to allow him to train Louis and her Valkyries. At the end, Altria admits that she's jealous of Seiichi and the other girls don't understand why that is. Probably because before anything, they were animals. All the girls go to her and Seiichi, and there they meet Louis, leader of the Valkyries, and her blue-haired brother. The girls introduce themselves as Seiichi's wife, girlfriend, and servant. At the end of the day, it is revealed that it was the king of the neighboring country who ordered the Origa to attack King Ranzi. Meanwhile, Lorna was trying to torture Origa, leaving the little girl hungry. Upon seeing the cruel torture method, the ex-fat Seiichi stops Lorna from continuing this. After feeding the girl, Louis explains to the Seiichi that Origa is one of the cat beasts, who was taken from her own family, enslaved, and forced to become an assassin. Seiichi tries to remove her collar. A shock will kill her. Some things go on in the kingdom of Kaiser, such as the king treating the summoned heroes as disposable humans. An attack on this king, a fight and conversation between two friends, and stalls. Back at Talbot, Seiichi again creates a new magic and manages to free an Origa from her slave collar. After the protagonist does this, Saria asks for the little girl to join their group. The little girl accepts, and the king authorizes it, as he doesn't wish to punish a child. In the demon realm, the pig counselor and Kaiser Helios mage sent a horde of monsters to the border of the country that Seiichi is in. Louis and all the Valkyries went to fight, and Seiichi stayed to take care of the king. A week after that, a desperate royal guard appears saying that there is a legion of monsters coming out of the forest to attack Talbot. As the Valkyries are defending the country's borders, this problem is left for the adventurers and the city guards to deal with, whether it is a normal attack or not. The adventurous guild started to fight. Seiichi and the king just watch glasses demonstrate the power of his muscles. When the fight already seems certain, a large horde of boss-level monsters arrives in the battle. Seeing all his friends suffering, Seiichi decides to create a long-range spell to detonate all the monsters, but this spell cannot reach his friends on the battlefield. The protagonist ends up creating a spell that he names Judgment, and when he uses it, it hits all the demons at once, and after defeating all the bosses, Seiichi gains several extreme abilities. After all this, the old man invites Seiichi to teach at his academy. The protagonist says that he will only go if he can take his companions, and the guy accepts. The idea is to leave after the return of the Valkyries. While they don't return, Seiichi takes the girls for a walk. When the Valkyries return, Louis even thinks about going with Seiichi to the Barber Academy, but she can't do that because her main duty is to protect the king. Seiichi's group pledges to return one day, so they say goodbye and leave for the Barber Academy. Little did they know that the demon pig already had dark plans involving that place, and that Seiichi would probably find the people who abandoned him when he was a simple fat stinker of level 1 in all of his statistics. So, that's it for this video. If you have any suggestions for videos, don't forget to comment here because I'll be reading all of them, as I always do. Also, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video. See you in the next video. Peace.